The fog hangs low over the harbor like a secret no one wants to share, and my old front porch stares back at me from behind a bright red sold sign. My breath catches. The paint on the clapboards looks the same, flaky white with a hint of blue underneath, but the house feels different. Empty, like a stranger wearing my mother's sweater. I cut the engine and sit there, both hands on the wheel, listening to the ticking heat of my car. The big oak in the yard stretches its arms over the roof, ropes of moss swaying in the sea breeze. There are orange flags in the grass, survey stakes. I know what those mean. I know exactly what those mean. Smash that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I step out and the salt in the air tastes like a warning. The gravel crunches under my flats, the same sound I grew up with, the sound that used to mean home. A gull cries. I'm 35 years old and somehow I feel 10 again, my backpack heavy, my heart light, the door swinging open before I even knock. Only now there's a chain across the gate. New, bright, and a lock I don't own. No one told me. My family didn't tell me. There's a logo on a pickup across the street, Vale Coastal Developments. It sits there like a shark in shallow water, all clean lines and polished metal. A man stands by it in a tailored jacket, the kind people in this town don't wear unless they're selling something. He's looking at a tablet and talking low to another guy with a clipboard. They don't look at me, not yet. I stare at the porch. I can see the spot where the swing used to be. Dad built it before he left, and Mom kept it even after she married Greg. When I was little, we'd curl there in the evenings and count the buoys, and Mom would hum over the sound of the tide. The swing is gone now. The hooks remain, two sad little circles like eyes. My phone buzzes in my pocket. I pull it out. It's a text from Ethan, my brother, an hour ago. Hey, you back in town yet? Everything okay? I swallow and type I'm at the house. Why is there a sold sign? No answer. I call him. It goes to voicemail. I hang up before the beep. I try Mom, straight to voicemail. Then Aunt Carla. I let it ring until it stops. The quiet that comes after feels heavier than the fog. A woman in a navy blazer steps out of a compact car and walks toward the gate, keys jingling in her hand. Realtor. You can spot them. She smiles a soft smile that doesn't reach her eyes. Oh, hi there, are you? She glances at the house, then back at me. We're not doing tour today. The property is under contract. My name is Maya, I say. This is my house. Her smile falters. I'm sorry, we're representing the seller. The sellers, rather. The paperwork is all ready. Sellers, the word scratches my throat. Plural. She clears her throat and checks her clipboard. I'm not at liberty to share details. If you have questions, you should contact your representation. My family. The wind pushes my hair across my face. I tuck it behind my ear and force my feet to move closer. The chain rattles when I touch it and something in me splinters. Please, I grew up here. I just want to look. She hesitates. The man by the truck finally glances our way. He is handsome in that too shiny way. Dark hair, perfect smile, eyes that see and calculate at the same time. He watches me with mild interest, like I'm part of the scenery he has to move around. We start work on Monday, the man calls. His voice is smooth, like a radio ad. If you're sentimental, today's the day for saying goodbye. Start work, the words slam into me. Work, I repeat. What kind of work? He gives me a practiced grin. Conrad Vale, he says, stepping forward and offering a hand over the chain like we're neighbors. We're revitalizing this stretch. Sustainable cottages, coastal charm with modern access. You'll love it. I don't take his hand. My palm is shaking. I shove it into my jacket pocket so he won't see. I don't love it. This is my home. He nods like he understands, like he hears people say this every week and has a response tucked neatly into his glove compartment. Change is hard, but progress is good. You can always keep a piece of the past in your heart. The realtor fidgets. Maya, if you'd like me to put in a request for a supervised visit, I can. I laugh. It's a small, sharp sound. A supervised visit to my own kitchen. My phone rings. I snatch it up. Ethan. I say, breathless. Where are you? His voice is low, tense. At the house. Why is there a why is this happening? A pause, long enough for a gull to cry out and the foghorn to groan in the distance. Maya, don't make a scene. A scene. They're putting survey flags in Mom's dahlias. Just listen to me. He lowers his voice even more. We'll talk later, okay? Later, when? After they start tearing it. I stop. I won't give Conrad the satisfaction of hearing me break. I turn away from him and the realtor and face the oak so my voice will steady. You told me we were going to talk. You told me nothing would happen without me. I know what I said. Ethan's breath scrapes the phone. Plans changed. Plans changed, without me. Maya, his voice cracks, and for a second I hear my brother, my real brother, who used to climb onto the roof with me to watch storms roll in, who swore we'd always have this place even if we had nothing else. Then he's gone. I can't talk right now. The line goes dead. The empty sound in my ear matches the empty feel in my chest. I swallow hard and slide the phone back into my pocket. Everything all right? The realtor asks, too bright. I want to see the kitchen, I say. My voice isn't mine. It's calmer than I feel. Just for a minute. She looks at Conrad. He shrugs with a polite expression that says he has better things to do. If it's quick, he says, we're on a schedule. The chain clinks as she unlocks it. My hand closes around the cold metal, and for a second I think about all the times I ran through this gate as a kid, carrying groceries, dragging Christmas trees, bringing home friends who would step into our chaotic kitchen and feel the warmth of Lena's cooking like a parade. I push the gate open, and the hinges squeal like a warning. The porch boards creak. The screen door sticks the way it always did. Inside, that first breath of air hits me dust and lemon oil and the faintest trace of my mother's perfume, the one she wore on Sundays. The house is quiet. Too quiet. Boxes sit by the stairs, labeled in Aunt Carla's tidy handwriting. Linens, keepsakes, photos. I swallow tears. The kitchen is smaller than I remember and larger than I fear. The sunlight finds the chips in the old tile counter and turns them into stars. The fridge is gone, a square of dust marks where it stood. The little chalkboard on the wall is still there, a heart drawn in pink. Mom's handwriting underneath. Welcome home, my girl. It's faint, half wiped away like a memory you're trying to keep. There are papers on the table, a dotted line, signatures. I don't mean to look, but my eyes find them anyway. Lena Morrow, Greg Morrow, Carla Henley, Ethan Morrow. Their names in careful ink. My name is not there. My name is nowhere. The room shifts. My hand goes to the back of a chair, and I hold on. The realtor clears her throat and flips a folder closed like she's shielding it from the rain. Why didn't anyone call me? I whisper. It isn't a question that needs an answer. It pours out of me the way seawater pours out of a broken bucket. I was here 2 weeks ago. We had coffee. Mom told me. I stop. The lump in my throat is too big. The back door creaks. Footsteps. I turn, heart thudding, as Aunt Carla steps in. She's still in her scrub top from the clinic, her hair pulled back tight, face tired. She stops when she sees me. Maya. Auntie. The word tastes like home and hurt at the same time. You signed. She closes her eyes. When she opens them, there's a plea in them. I wanted to call you. I tried. You tried. My voice rises. I pull it back down. You tried and what? Your phone broke. Your hands couldn't dial. She flinches but lifts her chin. Don't do that, please, not in front of them. A glance toward the hall where Conrad stands, very politely invisible, listening to everything. Do what? Feel. My fingers tighten on the chair so hard my knuckles pale. Let's step outside, she says softly. We can talk. I shake my head. The kitchen is a church and a battleground and the only place where my voice doesn't feel borrowed. Talk. About what? About how you promised me we wouldn't sell. How Mom promised. How Greg looked me in the eye and said family votes together. Carla's eyes shine. We did vote. Without me. She doesn't deny it. That hurts more than anything. A cell phone vibrates on the table. Greg's name flashes on Aunt Carla's screen. She silences it and slips the phone into her pocket. There were reasons, she says. Complicated ones, your mother. Don't, I say. I can't hear my mother's name come out of her mouth tied to this. A shadow passes the window. Conrad clears his throat, voice all sugar. I don't mean to intrude, truly, but we've got crews waiting on approvals. If you need extra time inside, I can give you 5 minutes. 5 minutes. 5 minutes to say goodbye to 28 years. 5 minutes to forgive everyone I love. 5 minutes to swallow a betrayal that won't even fit in my mouth. I walk to the sink. There's a narrow window above it, the one I used to stare through while doing dishes, watching the light move across the water, counting kayaks. The glass has a tiny crack running through the top right corner, the crack Ethan made when he was 8 and tried to throw a tennis ball inside. Mom didn't fix it because she said not all broken things need to be made new to be loved. I press my finger to the crack. Cold glass, warm memory. It's like touching a ghost. I hear my mother's voice, that soft way she had when she wanted me to be brave. We do what we must, baby girl. We hold what we can. We let go of what we can't. I don't know if she would call this letting go. I turn around. Carla is watching me like I might fall through the floor. Maya, she says, almost a whisper, please trust me. There's more to this. There's something you'll understand. I'm asking you to give me 2 days. My laugh is small and humorless. 2 days for what? For the truth. Another gull cries. The fog shifts and a shaft of light lands on the table. The signatures glow, carving into my mind. If I had a pen, I might draw a line where my name should have been. But I don't. And even if I did, it wouldn't mean anything. I walk back through the hall, past the pictures missing from the walls. The spots where they hung look like old tan lines on a body that has seen too much sun. In the living room, the rug is rolled. The bookshelf is bare. The room feels like a mouth that has forgotten its words. At the door, I pause. I look at the threshold, the nick at the edge where I dropped my first set of keys and chipped the wood. It's still there, proof of me. I slide my shoe over it, a quiet, ridiculous thing, and then I step out onto the porch and into the day that doesn't feel like mine. Conrad leans against the column, all charm. I know this is difficult, he says gently. I truly do, but when this is over, this neighborhood will be better, trust me. I meet his eyes. They're the color of the ocean when a storm is moving in. You don't know what better looks like here. He smiles a little tighter. We'll show you. I take the steps down slowly, each one like the tick of a clock. At the bottom, I stop and turn to face the house one more time. The oak sways. The porch roof whispers. I tell myself this is not the end of the story. It can't be. I'll be back, I say, to the house, to the air, to the girl I used to be. My voice sounds steady. That surprises me. This isn't done. Carla touches my arm. Please, 2 days. I pull away gently. You had months. She doesn't chase me. That somehow tells me more than anything else. I walk to my car with the tide hissing in my ears, the taste of salt and metal on my tongue. The developer's truck gleams in the mist. The sold sign winks at me like a punchline to a joke I didn't know I was in. My phone buzzes again. A text from an unknown number. We need to talk. It's about the will. The will. I look back at the house, at the kitchen window where the crack runs like a thin vein through glass, and I make a promise that sits heavy and solid in my chest. They think this is over. They think I'll drive away and let time do whatever work they need it to do. They don't know me. They don't know what happens when you sell a woman's anchor without asking if she can swim. They don't know what I have planned. I sit in my car across from the harbor and stare at the text like it might explain everything if I blink slow enough. We need to talk. It's about the will. I type back with cold fingers. Who is this? There's a pause long enough for the tide to make a whole decision. Then, Lydia Park, I'm with Haynes and Crowell. Your grandmother was a client. Can you come by tomorrow morning? I breathe out. My grandmother, not Mom. A piece settles in my chest and another piece rattles loose. My grandmother, Miriam, who taught me to knit and told me to salt my pasta water so it tastes like the ocean, who kept 3 sewing machines because you never know what fabric will ask of you. She died when I was 22. She left the house to Mom, and Mom turned it into a lighthouse for us when everything else went dark. Why would her will matter now? I type, what is this about? Lydia replies, I can't explain by text, but I think you should see something. Maya, please come, 10 a.m. And please don't mention it to anyone yet. A gull settles on the bollard in front of me and cocks its head like it's listening. Don't mention it. To who? My family. My family who signed my home away while I was drinking coffee with my mother 2 weeks ago and telling her about the new bookshelves I wanted to build in the back room. My throat tightens. I lock my phone and put it face down on the seat. The harbor is a mirror for the clouds. Boats sway in their slips, ropes creaking, fenders bumping, everything moving and not going anywhere. That's what this town is like. We sway. We settle. We hold. The bait shop bell rings whenever someone opens the door, and the smell of ice and fish floats across the water and tangles with the sweetness from the bakery on the corner. I close my eyes and listen, because the sound of this place is the sound of my childhood, the sound of the life that made me. When I say I grew up in that house, I mean the porch boards learned the rhythm of my steps, and the sink learned the shape of my hands, and the walls kept secrets for me that I didn't even tell myself. I mean Lena, my mother, put cinnamon in the coffee on Sundays and laughed like there wasn't a bill in a drawer somewhere quietly getting older. I mean Ethan and I learned to dance standing on her feet in that kitchen, her heart a drum under our palms. Before Greg, there was Dad for a little while. He built the swing out of a piece of redwood he hauled from a yard sale and told us the knots were stories in the grain. He smelled like motor oil and something hopeful. He left when I was 12. The reasons were a tangle I never quite pulled straight. Money, pride, love that looked like a bruise some days and a bandage others. He sent postcards from places that didn't smell like the sea, and then the postcards stopped. But the swing stayed, and the house held us like hands. Aunt Carla moved 2 blocks closer after he left. She was always there anyway. She's been there since I had baby teeth, showing up with soup and a stack of borrowed paperbacks, with a stern voice that softened around the edges when we did something brave. She and Mom could talk with their eyes. I used to watch them do it across a room and try to learn the code. Greg came when I was 14. He was a contractor then, or said he was, and he knew how to lean in a doorway like he owned the light. He fixed the sagging gutter and changed the way our dinners felt by making big plans over meatloaf. "We'll do an addition," he said, rough hands on a napkin sketch. "Open this up. Light, air, value, pure value." Mom's face glowed in those days when he talked. He made her smile and stand taller, and he took her to the fair and won her a stuffed bear with one of those impossible games. I wanted to love him for that. I wanted to keep wanting to love him, even later, when the napkin sketches became spreadsheets on the fridge, when he started calling us by nicknames we didn't like and saying things like, "We vote in this family," whenever he didn't get the answer he wanted. He brought systems, that's what he called them, systems for chores, systems for money. "It's not about control," he'd say, tapping the paper with his pen. "It's about clarity." He didn't have a bad tone. He had a reasonable tone that made you feel silly for wanting to argue. The first time he said "our house" like he'd always lived there, something in me winced. Mom didn't flinch. She was in love, and love blurs lines sometimes, turns hard edges round so you can lean on them. Cracks started small. The roof leaked after a storm. We all had buckets in our bedrooms for a week. Greg said, "We can't keep putting Band-Aids on a broken leg," and he talked Mom into a home equity loan. He said, "We'll pay it down fast. I've got new contracts lined up." I believed him because Mom did, and because for a while the roof didn't leak and the deck stopped wobbling and the kitchen had a little more light because he trimmed the hedges back like he was revealing the house's true face. But contracts fall through. Clients forget to pay. Checks get held up. Ethan's fishing gigs were feast or famine, and when they were famine he'd come home with his shoulders tight and a laugh he used like a shield. Aunt Carla picked up extra shifts at the clinic and told us not to worry. Mom worked weekends at the bookstore and tucked cash into an envelope in the pantry. "Just in case," she'd say, patting it like it was a baby. I remember the day we wrote a promise on scrap paper, Ethan and me. We were on the roof because the stars were out and we liked to feel like we could touch them. We called it the house promise. We wrote, "We won't sell the house if we can help it. We will fix it. We will love it. We will choose it over shiny things." We folded it and put it in a tin with 3 quarters and a key from a diary I had in middle school, and we buried it under the oak, right where the roots make a circle big enough for 2 kids to fit inside. We used spoons because we didn't want to leave shovel marks. When we told Mom, she laughed and cried at the same time and said, "You kids are a pair of poets." and she promised us she understood. She put her hand over our messy hands and said, "This house is more than wood." And then she said something I didn't understand until now. We hold what we can, we let go of what we must, but we don't do it alone. The first time I saw Conrad, I didn't know his name. He was on the pier in a crisp shirt, talking to a man I recognized as a town council member. He was eating a peach like he had all the time in the world. He laughed. It was the kind of laugh that fills a room and means nothing. Later, I saw him at the bakery talking to Greg. They shook hands. Greg saw me and waved me over. "Maya, this is Conrad," he said. "We're talking about the new boardwalk plans, opportunity for everybody." Conrad smiled at me like he was lit from inside. "I hear you make a mean bookshelf." "We can't all be luxury cottages," I said, and he laughed again like I'd told a joke. Little things, that's how a story tilts. The town started to change in ways that felt like someone rearranged our furniture while we were asleep. A new cafe with single-origin coffee opened where the bait shop used to be. The old boatyard sold, and the sound of saws became the sound of hammers building something sleeker. People who wore the town like a costume started showing up on weekends, taking pictures of the sunset and asking where the authentic spots were. I went to college 30 miles away and came home every weekend I could. I came back after graduation because Mom needed me, and because the house needed me, and because leaving felt like cutting a string tied to my heart. I found work at a little gallery on Main, framing watercolors and selling sea glass jewelry to tourists who wanted to bring a piece of our tide back to their apartments. I was happy in a way that didn't look like TV. I was happy in a way that tasted like biscuits and sounded like the screen door. Greg lost 2 contracts in a row. He stopped whistling in the morning. His papers on the table had more red circles and less confidence. He kept saying we vote like it was a prayer that would make the roof stop sagging. Ethan had a dry year. He sold his boat. He said it was temporary and his eyes slid away when he said it. Mom got tired around the edges. She'd say, "I'm fine," and then she'd sit down and press her fingers to her temple like she was holding something important in place. "We could sell the back lot," Greg said one night, half a suggestion, like he was tossing it to the room to see if the wind would catch it. "There is no back lot," I said, and Mom nodded, and that was that for a while. Money can turn a kitchen into a courtroom without anyone noticing it put on a robe. We learned to speak softly around the numbers, like if we were gentle, the math would be too. One afternoon, I came home and the deed was on the table. "What's this?" I asked, my stomach a tight fist. Greg smiled like he'd been waiting to surprise me with good news. "We're doing a title check," he said. "Just making sure everything's in order. These things get messy when they're old." I wanted to say it wasn't a thing. It was a story written long before he came. I wanted to ask why his name was on a sticky note attached to the corner, and why the attorney listed was new, not the one my grandmother used. But Mom squeezed my arm and said, "It's fine," and I swallowed words that felt like pebbles. When I look back now, there are so many little signposts I want to stand next to and wave a flag in front of my past self. Slow down. Ask more questions. Don't let love talk you out of your gut. The sun slides lower and the harbor takes a breath. My phone buzzes again. It's Ethan. A text this time, "I'll come by later. Please don't go nuclear. It will make everything worse." I read it 3 times. Worse than this. I type, "Come now." Dots appear, disappear, he sends, "Can't later." I put the phone away and stand up because sitting feels like surrender. I walk the long way back to where I parked so I can pass the bakery, the chapel, the lane that cuts behind Mrs. Ruth's garden and always smells like mint. Every corner has a version of me on it, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, last week. I see myself in the bakery with flour on my cheek, laughing with Mom over paper cups of coffee because we forgot the travel mugs again. I see myself on the chapel, steps the day the hurricane turned, and the town and I both exhaled at the same time. I see myself carrying a paint can down that lane, the lid knocking my knee red, while Ethan walked backward in front of me telling me a story big enough to make me forget it hurt. I stop at our fence. The chain is back across the gate. The sold sign flaps in a small wind like it's trying to get loose. The oak throws shade across the yard in long fingers. Under that shade, beneath the roots, the tin box is probably still there. Does the earth hold promises? Do they sour if you don't feed them? A silver SUV rolls by slowly. The windows are dark. It hesitates for a breath near the curb, then slides on. Maybe it's nobody. Maybe it's the town learning a new kind of watchfulness. I pull into the driveway of the little rental I'm in for the week, 2 streets over, 1-story, cereal box plain. The key sticks. The heater clicks. It does not know the way I like my mornings. It does not know my name. I stand in the kitchen and put my hands flat on the cheap counter and say out loud, because I need to hear my voice in a room that belongs to me. They sold my house. They sold my house without me. The words lift and bump the ceiling and fall back down around my shoulders. I call Mom again. Straight to voicemail. I call Aunt Carla. It rings once, twice, 3 times, and then she answers, breathless, like she ran for the phone. Maya. What happened? I told you, I'll tell you everything, 2 days. Her voice is a coil trying not to spring. Please. Who is Lydia Park? I ask. Silence, then. Who? The paralegal from Haynes and Crowell. She texted me. Another beat. I don't know, she says, too fast. Grandma's attorney, I say. She wants to see me, tomorrow. Okay, Carla says carefully. Go, listen, but please, for once, don't assume the worst of us. I am standing in a kitchen that isn't mine because you signed my home away. It comes out sharper than I meant it to. What else am I supposed to assume? Her breath catches. I love you like you're mine. Don't forget that when you hear the rest. The rest, my skin prickles. She swallows audibly. 2 days, she says again and hangs up. I stare at the phone until the screen dims. I want to throw it. I want to hug it because it's the only thing connecting me to the people who made me and just cracked me open. I wash my face. I make tea I don't drink. I sit on the couch that smells like someone else's soap and watch the fog climb the streetlights until they look like moons. And I think about my grandmother's hands, the way she'd smooth fabric on the table and say, "The thread tells you when it's ready. Don't force it. You'll just snap something." At 10 o'clock, Lydia texts, "I know this is strange. Thank you for coming. It could change things." Change things. The words are a small light in a long tunnel, or maybe it's a lure, I don't know. But I know I'll be at that office at 10 a.m. with my chin up and my heart braced. Before I try to sleep, I walk back out into the night because the air tastes like salt and I want to see if the stars still know my name. I stand under the oak and I put my hand on the ground where the roots rise. I can feel the cool under the top layer, the hidden water of the earth. The tin box is there. I can feel it like you can feel a memory sitting in your chest. I whisper, "We will fix it. We will love it. We will choose it over shiny things." And the wind moves through the leaves like a yes. Or maybe like a warning. Somewhere down the block, a car door shuts softly. The SUV? A neighbor? It doesn't matter. I turn back toward the rental, and I know the walk home by heart even though these steps don't know me yet. Tomorrow is a new room in a house I thought I knew. Tomorrow is the part of the story where you either find the map or you realize you have to draw it yourself. I lock the door behind me. I place my phone face up on the table like I'm daring it to light up. It doesn't. The silence is not kind, but it's honest. I say it one more time because saying it keeps me upright. This isn't done. Not by a mile. Morning comes like someone pulled a gray sheet off the town and let a little light through. I don't sleep much. When I do, I dream I'm carrying a house key that doesn't fit any door. By 9:30, I'm parked outside Haynes and Crowell with a stomach that feels like it's balancing on a wire. The building used to be a bicycle repair shop. The sign over the door still has a ghost of a chain link on the wood. Inside, the lobby is small, neat, plants lined up like soldiers, the kind of place where the pen on the counter is tied with a string, but the string is pretty. The receptionist looks like she knows everyone's cousin. "You must be Maya," she says, and she says my name like a hand on my shoulder. "Lydia will be right out." Lydia comes around the corner holding a folder like it could break. She's younger than I expected. Tight bun, kind eyes. "Thank you for coming," she says. "I didn't want to text too much. It felt wrong." "Everything feels wrong," I say, and realize I said it out loud. She leads me down a short hall into a room with a round table and 2 chairs. The window looks over the harbor, and if I lean, I can see the edge of our street. The sight makes me want to sit down even faster. Lydia closes the door softly and sets the folder in front of her, then slides a small, sealed envelope across to me. It triggered yesterday, she says. We have a system that flags certain recorded events. When I saw the transfer of title for your address, I checked your grandmother's file. There was a set of instructions attached to be followed if the house changed hands outside the direct family line. Your grandmother wrote this to you. My fingers don't want to touch the paper. They do anyway. The envelope is thin and cream-colored, the way things used to be when people still sent letters about big decisions. The front has my name in my grandmother's careful script. There is the tiniest smudge where her hand must have paused. For me, I repeat, because my brain is trying to buy time. Yes, Lydia takes a breath. Your grandmother came in here like clockwork once a year the last decade of her life. She updated beneficiary lists. She updated her notes. She asked about you and Ethan and Lena. She baked the front desk lemon bars that ruined us for all other lemon bars. She left this. I open the envelope with a thumb under the flap. Inside is one page, folded in thirds. The handwriting is familiar as my own heartbeat. My girl, if you are reading this, I am either very wrong or very right about how life goes. I never wanted this house to be what kept you from moving when you needed to, and I never wanted it to be the thing that someone used to move you before you were ready. I hope your mother lives 1,000 years and laughs all of them. If not, I hope you know that everything she did with your face in her mind. Some things about this land aren't written in paint on the porch. Some things are written in old ink at the county and in the dirt under the oak. You know one of those places. This letter is about the other. I made an agreement years ago with our neighbor Alan Gray. He is with God now. His daughter Ruth has the garden, as you know, and she is sturdy. We wrote that if our house ever left our hands out of our choosing, my blood, meaning you or your brother, would have the first right to buy the gray lot next door at its assessed value. We filed the paper. We shook hands. Ruth is a woman of her word. If you need it, use it. If you don't, let it lie. This town forgets slow, but it forgets. The law forgets slower. Sometimes that's a blessing. I am sorry if you are hurting. If you are angry, that is a kind of love. Do not let it turn you mean. Mean is just hurt with no place to go. Look under the oak when you need to steady yourself. I wanted a world where you never would, but I know the weight of promises. I trust you. I love you as long as there is salt in the sea, and even longer. Grandma. The words blur. I press my thumb into the paper until it leaves a crescent. First right to buy, I say. My voice sounds small, like it has to pass through cotton. Lydia nods. She pulls 2 documents from the folder and slides them to me. A right of first refusal, she says, then catches herself. It means your family gets the first chance to buy before anyone else does, but this is stronger than that. This is an option to purchase at a set price. It's already agreed if you want it. The price is pegged to the last tax assessment plus 10%. It had a trigger. If the original lot is ever sold outside the family, the option wakes up. That happened yesterday, according to the county record. I stare at the paper. It's full of lines and numbers and a blocky stamp that matters more than my feelings. So I can. You can buy the land next door, Lydia says. Ruth Gray has to honor it if you act within 60 days. That's what the agreement says. Why would my grandmother do this? I ask. Why not put an option on our house? Why the neighbor? Lydia lifts a shoulder. Sometimes the county is easier on one side of a fence than the other. Your grandmother came in here with a hand-drawn map that shows the drainage slope and where the oak roots go. She talked about protecting the tree and protecting your access to the lane. There's also an old drainage easement across the gray lot that serves your lot. If a developer wanted to build big on your house lot, they'd need cooperation from whoever owns Gray's land to fix the runoff. Your grandmother wanted whoever came after her to be the one in the position to say yes or no. The room seems to tilt, then right itself. The oak outside the window looks like it's listening. So if I own the lot next door, I say slowly, I have some say over their work. In plain terms, Lydia says, yes, you can make it very, very hard for someone to push a project through without you. Easements and covenants are boring words until they hold up an entire plan. She taps another paper. Also, your grandmother recorded a heritage tree covenant on your lot. The oak cannot be removed. There are protections around grading within a certain radius. It won't stop all construction, but it limits it. If they combine lots, sometimes they get around parts of it. If the lots stay separate, the protections are stronger. I look down. The map is simple, drawn in my grandmother's hand, not a surveyor's. The oak is a big circle. The lot lines are neat. The lane is a little arrow with the word breathe pointing toward the water. It looks like something you'd find tucked inside a cookbook, not a plan that could stop a developer. I don't have the money, I say, because the voice in my head is practical and tired. Even at assessed value, it's a lot. I have a savings account and a good credit union that knows me by name. But there's time, Lydia says. 60 days is not nothing, and sometimes people want to help when they understand the stakes. She pauses. Maya, I need to ask, does your family know about this agreement? Mom might. I try to see her face when I show her the letter. I can't. Aunt Carla, she told me to give her 2 days. Lydia's expression flickers. 2 days. She said there, more to this, that I'd understand. Okay, Lydia folds her hands. This is where I say the thing that gets me in trouble when I say it too gently. Your stepfather's name is on the sale, correct? Yes. And Conrad Vale's company is the buyer. Yes. She takes a breath. Developers do their homework. If I saw the trigger on your grandmother's file, someone at Vale could have seen it too. They may have already approached Ruth to try to nullify or buy around it. The option is recorded. It's pretty solid, but pressure is real. I'm telling you this so you don't wait to breathe. How do I start? I ask. My hand goes to the map like it's a compass. Do I knock on Ruth's door? Do I bring cookies? Do I bring this piece of paper and my best please? Lydia smiles a little. You bring yourself, and you bring a copy of the option that I will notarize right now, and you bring the letter if you want to. Ruth knows your grandmother's hand. Do you want me to call her son, Daniel, to let them know you're coming? He helps her with the legal stuff. I feel like a girl again, on the porch steps with a scraped knee and someone saying, you're okay, you're okay. Yes, I say, please. She dials. She puts it on speaker. The phone rings, and then a man answers, voice wary and polite. Gray Residence. Hi, Daniel. It's Lydia from Haynes and Crowell. Is Ruth with you? She's resting, he says, and then, warm when he hears her name, Lydia, hey, how are you? We're all right. I'm here with Maya Morrow. There is a small silence, the kind that means he is pulling up a memory. Miriam's granddaughter, he says. Of course. Yes, I won't say too much over the phone, but I have a document related to the option between Miriam and Alan. We saw a trigger yesterday. Another pause, his breath changes. We figured, he says quietly. Conrad stopped by last week, he's persuasive. My stomach tightens. He talked to you. He brought flowers for Mom and a rendering for the cottages. Said the town needs progress. Dry, like sandpaper. He also said the old paper might be outdated, and they'd be happy to make it worth our while to clear it. And, Lydia says, though we can hear the answer in his voice. I told him the paper has a name on it that matters to my mother, Daniel says. If Maya wants it, she gets the first conversation. If she doesn't, we'll think again. I close my eyes. Relief laughs in my chest and then disappears because this is not done. Can I come by? I ask. Today. Today is good, he says. 6 o'clock. Mom has her good hours in the early evening. I'll make tea and dig out Alan's old file. Maya, he liked you. You helped him carry 2 potted roses when he pretended his back didn't hurt. I remember that afternoon. He said, you carry the flowers, I'll carry the joke. He told me 3 bad jokes and we both laughed anyway. I'll be there, I say. We hang up. Lydia makes copies and stamps things and slides them into a sturdy envelope with my name on it. She adds a card with her direct number. She hesitates like she wants to offer me something that isn't her job. Maya, she says, off the record, if your aunt said 2 days, my guess is your mother's health is in that story. Greg has been in here before. He's thorough in a way that leaves no room. I'm not saying anyone is bad. She chooses her words. I'm saying sometimes fear makes loud people sound right. I nod because if I talk, I'll spill. Thank you, I say. The words aren't enough, but they're all I have. Outside, the air feels different, like I just stepped onto a stage and the light found me. I sit in my car and read Grandma's letter again. The line about the oak makes my throat ache. The line about anger being a kind of love makes something inside me unclench and then reclench, because I am so angry I could crack. I drive past the house because I can't stop myself. Conrad's truck is there. The chain is up. The survey flags are brighter now that the sun is out. The realtor is nowhere. A man in a hard hat I don't recognize is measuring the porch steps with a tape, writing something on a clipboard. He doesn't see me, or he does and doesn't care. I park 2 streets over and walk. It feels like sneaking. My heart taps my ribs like a nervous drummer. At the fence, I stand with my hands in my pockets and pretend I'm part of the scenery. I whisper to the oak like a crazy person, like a child, like someone who has learned that trees keep better promises than people sometimes. I have a plan, I say. I have a piece of one anyway. My phone buzzes. Aunt Carla, I answer. You went to the lawyer, she says. No hello. Her voice has a thread of panic. How did you? Greg saw you go in, she says. He was driving by, he called me. Of course he was, of course he did. I got a letter from Grandma, I say, about the lot next door. Silence, then a low oh. You knew. I knew there was some old thing, she says. Your grandmother loved contingencies. She told me once she liked to set the table before the meal. I didn't know the details. I'm going to see Ruth at 6, I say. Maya, please, her voice frays. Slow down, just slow down. Let me talk to your mom, let me. Talk to her now, I say. Where is she? A beat, then, at the clinic with me. Put her on. She's getting fluids, Carla says. She's resting. Fluids. The word lands like a bird on my shoulder and digs in with its claws. How bad is it? I ask. My voice is small again. I want to tell you everything, she says. But I promised her I'd do it when she's there, when she can hold your hand. 2 days. We have appointments tomorrow morning. After that. She knew about the house, I say. It isn't a question. She knew the walls better than any of us, Carla says. She knew the papers, too. She signed because she bites off the rest. 2 days. I look at the porch, at the hooks where the swing hung. Did she want me kept out? I ask. No, she says fiercely. No, she wanted you spared one more thing to hold. But that's not the same. Greg thought it was, I say. He thinks a lot of things, she says. He thinks they sound like love. I swallow. I'm buying the lot next door. Maya. We can talk about everything else. We will, but this part is mine. She exhales like a wave hitting rocks. If you do this, be ready, she says. He won't take it well. I don't take this well, I say, and hang up before my voice shakes. I go back to the rental to wait for 6. Waiting is the worst. Time puts its feet up on your coffee table and eats your food and tells you to be polite. I pull the tin from under the sink where I hid the old nail and screws and odd bits the landlord left. And I put it on the table because I want to see a small container that holds useful things. I don't have to dig under the oak to know our promise is there. I might still do it tonight, after Ruth's. I want to hold that scrap of paper and let it remember me. At 5:30, I walk to Ruth's. The lane smells like mint. It always smells like mint near her fence because she planted it on purpose so children would pick it and crush it in their hands and put it in their pockets and carry the scent home. The gray house is a flat yellow with white trim and a roof that looks new. There are sun catchers in the windows and a row of terracotta pots standing like soldiers on the steps. Someone has swept the porch. You can tell when a porch is loved. It's in the corners. Before I knock, I see it, parked a respectful distance away, that same polished truck with the same logo, Vale Coastal Developments. Conrad is leaning against it, jacket off, tie loosened, sleeves rolled, like a man who has all the time in the world and knows how to use it. He watches me cross the sidewalk with a smile that asks for nothing and implies everything. Evening, he says, like we're neighbors meeting at a block party. Small town. I grip the envelope. You must be lost, I say. The boardwalk proposal meeting is on Thursdays. They serve coffee and say the word progress 15 times in an hour. He laughs without showing teeth. I brought Ruth a pie, peach, from Alton. Thoughtful goes a long way. Paper goes further, I say, and lift my envelope so he sees the edge of the notary stamp. His eyes flick to it and back like he's swatting away a fly. Careful, he says, playful, gentle, the way people talk to dogs they don't want to spook. You'll get your heart tangled up in something you can't untie. It's already tangled, I say, and I know knots. He tilts his head. We don't have to be at odds, Maya. You could be on the winning side of this street. Winning, I echo. I didn't know we were keeping score. We always are, he says softly, and for a second the shine drops and I see the machine inside him. He nods toward the door. Don't keep Ruth waiting. I walk past him and knock. The door opens before my knuckles hit wood a second time. Daniel stands there, tall, shoulders that look like they carried one too many sacks of soil, smile that is real and tired. Come in, he says. Mom's in the front room. She's got her teacups out like it's a ceremony. Inside, the house smells like lemon and mint, and something sweet cooling on a rack in the kitchen. The living room is small and full in the way that tells you they never tried to impress anyone who wasn't already impressed by kindness. Ruth sits in a high-backed chair with a blanket over her legs even though it's not cold. She turns her head slowly, and when she sees me, her face opens like someone lit a lamp. Miriam's girl, she says, and I am trying not to cry again. I take her hand. It's soft and thin and strong. Hi, Mrs. Ruth. Call me Ruth, she says. You've earned it. She glances at the envelope and then at my face, reading both. Let's see what your grandmother saved for us. I sit. I place the envelope on the table between us like a pact, and for the first time since the sold sign, I feel a line running from the past into the present that doesn't hurt to hold. Outside, on the curb, Conrad leans against his truck and checks his watch, patient as a tide. He thinks he knows the shape this story will take. He doesn't know about the letter in my hand or the tree that grew its roots under both our houses, holding us whether we deserve it or not. He doesn't know about the hard, fast way love can turn into a plan. Daniel brings out a shallow wooden box with a brass latch and sets it between the teacups like a centerpiece. Alan kept everything, he says. He was nervous about things going missing if they lived only in a drawer. Boxes made him brave. Ruth pats the lid with soft fingers. He and Miriam could argue about beans for an hour, she says, smiling at the memory. But when it came to the oak, they never raised their voices. They understood the same thing. What thing? I ask. That you can't build the kind of life you're proud of if you cut your roots, Ruth says. Look at me getting poetic. That woman rubbed off. I pass her grandma's letter. She reads it slowly, tracing a sentence with her finger, and for a moment I am 10 again, sitting at the table while an adult reads a note out loud and makes it sound like a blessing. Ruth hands it back with a small nod. That's Miriam, she says. Soft hands, iron spine. Daniel opens the box. Inside are paper folders tied with faded ribbon, a cracked blue notebook, and a small envelope that says, in Alan's blocky handwriting, for when we forget what we promised. He slides out a document with an official stamp and lays it beside Lydia's copy from my envelope. They match like twins who chose different colored shirts. Option to purchase, Daniel reads. Executed 15 years ago, triggered if the Morrow lot is transferred to a non-blood relative. Purchase price, assessed value plus 10%. Time to exercise, 60 days. Closing, 45 days after exercise. He looks up. Ruth has always said she would honor it. Ruth nods. It has Miriam's name on it, she says, as if that is the whole explanation. It is. Conrad came by, Daniel says, matter of fact. He brought that pie and a paper that said the option was archaic and vulnerable, which is a fancy way of saying he thinks we can be tired into forgetting. He offered to tidy it up for a number that would make a weaker family blush. Ruth snorts delicate. He brought his smile like a rooster. What did you tell him? I ask, though I know. That the paper has your name in it by blood and by love, Ruth says. And if your grandmother wanted the say-so to live in your pocket, that's where it lives. Everything in me loosens and tightens at once. I want to exercise it, I say. The words feel like standing on my own feet. Now, today if we can. Daniel nods like he's been waiting for me to say that. We can sign a notice of exercise and record a memorandum, he says. Lydia can draw it up. The recorder's office is open until 4:30. It's 3:50, I say, glancing at the small clock above their mantel. The second hand ticks like a heartbeat. Can we make it? I can call Lydia, Daniel says, already dialing. She'll email the template. I've got a printer that thinks it's still young. Wait, Ruth reaches for my hand. Before you run, I want to say this. Money is a thing and we don't pretend it is. We'll need a deposit. We'll need a plan. If you need time for the balance, we can talk about a note. Alan and I never believed in letting someone drown because the boat came 5 minutes late. My throat thickens. I can do a deposit, I say. I can barely. If I move pieces and call in my favors with the credit union and perhaps sell the extra prints in the gallery storage. And I'll make a plan for the rest. I will not waste what you're offering. I won't. Good, she says. Then we're done with worrying and we move to doing. Daniel hands me his phone. Lydia's voice warms the line even before I say hello. I figured you'd say yes, she says. I'm sending the notice now. Print 2 copies. Sign both. Ruth signs a consent acknowledgement, which is not required but will make the clerk smile. I'll meet you at the recorder's office with a notary stamp if you need it. We need it, Daniel says, already at his printer as it whirs to life. He slides the papers in front of me. The words are simple. I, Maya Morrow, exercise the option to purchase the gray lot per the agreement recorded on X date for the agreed price. I sign. My name shakes only a little. Ruth signs her acknowledgement with a neat, old-fashioned swoop. Daniel signs as witness. He tucks the papers into a folder and grabs his keys. At the door, I see movement over Daniel's shoulder. Conrad straightens from his truck. His smile lands on me and doesn't quite reach. Busy? He asks pleasantly. Honoring paper, Daniel says. You understand paper, Mr. Vale. Conrad's eyes flick to the folder in Daniel's hand and back to my face like a camera taking a quick shot. You're making a mistake, he says lightly. There are ways this can be smoother. Smoother for who? I ask. He shrugs. For the town. Funny, I say. The town always seems to mean your investors. He laughs softly. Investors are people too. So are neighbors, I say. We don't wait for a reply. Daniel and I jog to his truck and climb in. The engine grumbles awake. We pull away, and in the side mirror, Conrad watches us go, his face polite and flat, as if he's weighing something invisible in his hands. The recorder's office is 3 blocks away in a brick building with a white clock steeple that runs 5 minutes slow. The clerk at the window is Mrs. Hodge, who bought sea-glass earrings from me last Christmas. Maya, honey, she says, peering over her glasses. You look like you sprinted here. We did, Daniel says, and sets the papers on the counter. We need to record a notice of exercise. She reads the top page. The expression she gives me says you are your grandmother's granddaughter. Lydia called, she says. I've got the book open. Let's make it official. Lydia rushes in 2 minutes later with her notary bag and a breathless, I almost parked in the mayor's spot. She stamps. She signs. Mrs. Hodge stamps again. The heavy clunk of the stamp landing on the page feels like a door being shut to keep out a draft. Lydia slides me a receipt with a book and page number. This puts a flag in the ground, she says. Anyone who tries to move dirt has to see it. I tuck the receipt into my wallet like a treasure map. My phone buzzes. Ethan, I'm outside your rental. Are you home? Can we talk? I look at the clock. It's after 5. My legs feel like noodles, but my spine feels like a rod. I need to go, I tell Lydia and Daniel. Thank you for everything. Come back tomorrow, Lydia says. We'll start the timeline and the financing options. And Maya, she waits until I meet her eyes. This is the part where the loud people get louder. That's how you know you're not imagining the stakes. Daniel squeezes my shoulder. Ruth will sleep good tonight, he says. Alan will too if heaven has files. Outside, the harbor is turning gold. For 10 seconds, this town looks new and ancient at once, like it's forgiving us for all the ways we don't deserve it. I get in my car and drive to the rental, hands steady on the wheel for the first time all day. Everything in me wants to spit back a sentence that would end us without paperwork. I hear my mother's voice, "Don't let it turn you mean." I take a breath. I taste salt. "We're taking the deal," I say. "Not because of you, in spite of you. If you come around my mother with a plan and a paper again, I will read it before she does. If you love her, you will accept that. If you don't, go sell your system somewhere else." He stares at me for a heartbeat that lasts too long. Then he nods once stiff. "You're not the little girl who needed me to screw the screen back on," he says. "I never was," I say, and walk away before he can say something that changes the weather for the worse. The signing feels like a wedding and a wake. We sit around a table with a plant that has been watered finally, and papers that smell like ink and inevitability. Conrad looks composed, but there is something like humility near his eyes. He signs the withdrawal of the variance. He signs the conservation agreement. He signs the contract to sell the house back to us at a price that makes my stomach twist and my heart sigh. I sign with a hand that doesn't shake because all the shaking is happening inside. Lydia notarizes each signature like she's blessing them. Leela slides a wire transfer confirmation across the table. "We're funded," she says, calm as a ship captain. Daniel squeezes my shoulder so hard I might bruise. Ruth's picture sits propped up on the table because she refused to navigate a crowd, but she wanted to be there. The art teacher cried twice. Alton brought cookies and pretended he didn't. Conrad stands when it's done. He offers his hand. I take it. His grip is firm, professional. "You could have made my life miserable for a year," he says. "You chose right now." "I like right now," I say. "It's where my mother lives." He nods, a real nod that says we might someday talk about other things that don't involve permits. He leaves with his folder. I sit in my chair and let the room wash over me. The sound of paper settling, the warm exhale of people who have been holding a town up with their shoulders, the quiet between sentences that feels like the ocean at slack tide. We go to the house. There's no chain across the gate. The sold sign is gone. The oak throws shade like it's throwing rice. The porch steps creak because that's their job. Mom waits at the bottom with a cane and a smile that makes me 8 years old and 80 at the same time. Carla stands on one side, Ethan on the other, the 3 people who make my life an orbit. "Keys," Leela says, holding out a ring. They jingle like bells. I unlock the door. The smell, dust, and lemon oil and the faint ghost of Mom's perfume hits me with a careful hand. I take one step inside, then another. I put my palm on the kitchen counter on the chip in the tile that used to look like a star. It still does. The chalkboard on the wall has a new message in Mom's shaky hand. "Welcome home, my girl." The old one is still there, faint under it, like a harmony. We do not cry like the movies. We do that thing where you laugh and you put your forehead on someone's shoulder and you say, "Oh," a lot. We move around the rooms like we're learning a dance we used to know. We open windows. We let the sea in. Later, after people drift out, after the cookies are crumbs and the lemonade is a question mark at the bottom of a jar, I sit on the porch with Mom and watch the harbor shift colors. The street is quiet. The ribbon on the gray lot catches the last light like a good idea. "You were a storm," Mom says, tired and proud. "I was a woman with a letter in her pocket," I say. "Same thing," she says, and leans her head on my shoulder. It takes a season for a house to remember its people. It takes a moment for people to remember their house. We start in small ways. The swing goes back up first. Ethan and Daniel climb ladders with rope and knots, and that brother's short hand that needs no words. They tie it better than Dad did because now they know what tension is and where to let it go. The first time I sit on it, I push off with my toes and feel muscle memory wake up in my legs like a song I didn't realize I missed. We move boxes with labels that make me smile. Carla's tidy script, linens, keepsakes, photos. We find a cracked snow globe that still makes a tiny blizzard if you shake it with hope. We find Grandma's lemon bar recipe with the grease stain on the corner where her hand always rested. We find a drawing of the oak from when I was 9. It looks like a broccoli crown. I love it. Mom has more good days than bad for a while. When the bad ones come, We sit with them like grumpy guests and don't try to make them sing. When the good ones come, she moves through the house like water finding its old course. She hums while we wash dishes. She plants herbs in the boxes on the sill. She watches the street through the lace of the curtain and tells me small stories I've never heard. Your grandmother used to leave slices of apple near the back step for birds. She said it made the mornings sweeter. We do it. It does. Greg moves into a rental across town. He comes by on Tuesdays when Carla is here so Mom never has to be alone with a plan. He is polite. He is small. He brings grocery store flowers that look like an apology and sit in water like a truce. They separate quietly a month later, officially a season after they separated in their hearts. He doesn't fight because there is no fight to win. The town knows. The town forgets, in the way towns do, slowly, kindly, with a new story to talk about. He gets a contract in the next county. He whistles again, probably for somebody else's kitchen. I wish him enough. Conrad's scaled-back project goes through the process with less heat. He builds 3 smaller cottages on the far side of his parcel, far from the oak's reach. He puts in a path to the water that is actually public, not a trick. He installs a plaque near the fence that says, "This tree was here before us. It should be here after." He doesn't put his logo on it. He shows up more in a sweatshirt and less in a suit. He still makes money. The sky does not fall. He hires local. He brings coffee to the planning staff once, and they refuse with a smile. Everyone learns something. The land trust takes shape. We write bylaws at the kitchen table with tea and too many cookies. Leela joins the board. So does Ruth, who brings lemon slices and straight talk. We file articles that make us sound like a real thing. Grants land on our doorstep with the speed of molasses, but they do land. We buy a little half-lot by the marsh and plant native grasses. Kids come on Saturdays and pull invasives and learn how to say words like estuary and mulch like their poems. The teenagers paint signs. Mr. Patel gives a lecture that starts with soil and ends with community. People clap like he just sang. The oak gets a new circle of mulch and a low fence that looks more like a hug than a barrier. The gray lot stays a shoulder, as promised. In the spring, we plant mint along the fence because Ruth says so. In the summer, we put a bench there with a plaque that reads, "For Miriam and Alan, who set the table before the meal." The hearing room, once a place of dread, becomes part of our story the way the tide is part of our days. We go there when the town needs to speak, not just to shout at something. We bring cookies. We don't clap at the wrong times. We raise our hands. We keep our voices low until we want them high. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and go stand in the kitchen with my hand flat on the counter to make sure it is there. The chalkboard gets new messages with silly drawings from Ethan and little hearts from Carla, and on brave days, a shaky joke from Mom. Sometimes I write my own name on it like a child, because seeing it on the wall makes me remember it in my chest. And sometimes I go outside after dinner, when the light is that color that makes everything look like a memory of itself, and I sit under the oak with the tin box open on my knees. I reread the scrap Ethan and I wrote on the roof, the one about shiny things and love. It meant something different then. It was about holding a house because it felt like holding a parent. It is still that, but it is also about not letting someone tell you the only way to belong is to break. There are people who will say we got lucky. They will say we had a letter, we had a tree, we had a town that's small enough to care about a route. They will not be wrong, but luck is just a door you still have to walk through. We did that. We brought pie to the meeting and also a stack of documents with stamps on them. We cried and we read. We held up love and law at the same time until the room had to see both. That's not luck. That's work. If you want a moral, I can tell you the one I tuck under my pillow on nights I dream about sold signs. Don't sell your anchor to someone who calls the ocean a spreadsheet. If someone sells it for you, learn to swim, then build a pier. And when you can, buy the land next door, not just with money, but with standing, with paper, with neighbors, with the kind of stubborn that doesn't turn to mean when it gets tired. My grandmother wrote, "Do not let anger turn you mean." I taped that line inside the cupboard where we keep the spices. I see it when I reach for cinnamon on Sundays. I am angry still some days, but I am not mean. I make lemon bars. I sign petitions. I read the staff report. I go to the hearing with a coat on even when it's hot. I talk to the man who looks like the sticker on his truck, and I don't let his smile make me soft. I hold my mother's hand when the nurse adjusts the IV. I hold Ethan's letters from the fishing boat when he is 5 days without signal on calm water, that is not always kind. I hold the old tin like a relic and the new deed like a sword that cuts no one. One evening in late summer, when the cicadas sing so loud they sound like electricity, Conrad walks down our sidewalk in a t-shirt and stops by the fence. He doesn't come in. He tips his chin toward the oak. "It's a good tree," he says. "The best," I say. He leans on the post like a man who might be learning how to be small. "We're putting plaques at the cottages," he says. "One for the birds, one for the tide, one for the neighbor who made us smarter." "You'll run out of room," I say the way you tease someone you maybe don't hate anymore. He smiles, a real one. "We'll try." He looks at the tree again. "You're not going to run for council, are you?" "Not my style," I say. "I prefer to bake and whisper in the right ears." "Good," he says. "You'd be dangerous." I wave him off. He walks on. The street holds him the way it holds everyone who remembers to look where they're going. When the wind is right, you can smell mint from Ruth's fence and lemon from our kitchen and salt from the harbor all at once. I sit on the swing and let those 3 scents tell me I live here. I watch the light move across the water and count buoys the way I did when the world wasn't so complicated, and somehow I knew more than I do now. The swing creaks, the oak whispers, the house breathes. We hold what we can, we let go of what we must, but we do not do it alone. "No," said Mrs. Hodge from the back. "Not on that tree. It's the only reason the street didn't flood during Irene. You cut that and you'll be swimming." Conrad's gaze flicked around the room, taking the measure of it. He found Councilman Pierce by the coffee urn, and they did that small nod men do when they're trying to look natural. I felt my eyes narrow. Pierce chaired the planning commission last term. He'd been on the pier with Conrad weeks ago. Interesting. I raised my hand again. "Will you commit, right now, to not building on the gray lot without my consent?" I asked. "We'll commit to conversations," Conrad said. "We'll commit to a fair process. I'm not going to make promises that would put our investors in a tight spot. That would be irresponsible." "Funny," I said. "We used to call it neighborly." Pastor Amy clapped once, sharp, and other hands followed, small applause that made the air different. You could feel the room choosing a side without anyone saying the word. I stepped forward. "I'm not against building," I said, and I meant it, even if part of me wanted to throw every hammer in the bay. "I'm against pretending a place is just a picture in a brochure. This street survived storms because we take care of each other. You don't get to slap community on a poster and erase the actual people who live here." A man in a veil polo stepped up with that smooth crisis smile. "We hear you," he said. "That's why we host these Q&As. We're taking notes." I showed him my own clipboard. Pastor Amy had given it to me on the way in, her idea of a holy handoff. At the top of the paper in her neat print, "Save the Oak, keep our promise," I'd already filled 2 pages with names. Alton had signed. Mrs. Hodge, the art teacher. Fishermen whose hands still smelled faintly of the morning tide. People love a tree for different reasons. All the reasons count. When the questions ran out, the PR woman thanked us for our engagement and invited everyone to take home a branded reusable mug. I watched Councilman Pierce slip out a side door before the end. I followed with my eyes. Noted. Conrad waited until most of the room had gone to the pastry table. Then he stepped close enough that only Ethan and I could hear him. "You're good," he said, quiet, almost admiring. "You speak like you have a little fire in your pocket." "It's a letter," I said. "From my grandmother, it burns cleaner." "We could use a voice like yours," he said. "Community liaison. Pay you to tell us what the town needs so we can give it to them." "You mean, pay me to make people quiet?" I said. He didn't deny it. "Careful," he said, still soft. "You're signing up for a fight that doesn't end at the hearing. You think it's about a tree. It's about time and money. Those are the tides here now." "I grew up on tides," I said. "I know how to read them." He smiled and walked away, already speaking to the next neighbor, already pouring coffee, already making his easy net wider. In the parking lot, Pastor Amy hugged me so tight my ribs squeaked. "That was a sermon," she said into my hair. "You should have an altar of petitions by Sunday." "We have 6 days," I said. I need rules, not just hearts. Lydia's office, she said. She'll make you a flowchart you can actually love. She did. At 4, Lydia put a stack of papers in front of me that looked like a mountain and felt like a ladder when she explained them. The hearing is next Thursday, she said. In the meantime, they moved up the arborist site visit to tomorrow at 7 a.m. They will try to say the tree is fine with selective root work. If you're there with a crowd and a certified letter saying you on the say-so next door, it gets harder to pretend. Letter, I said. She slid it across the desk. Notice to cease entry onto the gray lot, signed by Ruth and you. Deliver it tonight. Post copies. I have the stakes and the ribbon. Daniel will meet you with a hammer. We posted them at dusk. The boundary line glowed with new bright tape in the low light. The oak looked like it was wearing a sash. Daniel pressed the last stake in with his heel. Alan would love this, he said. He liked rules when they protected people. A truck rolled to the curb right as we tied the final knot. Not Conrad's. A subcontractor truck with ladders and a crew of 3. A guy hopped out, saw the ribbons, and frowned. We're here to mark utilities, he said. On which lot? I asked. Combined parcel, he said, reading from a clipboard without looking at me. Vale gave the address. This one is not combined, I said, tapping the stake with the notice. You set one toe on this dirt, and you're crossing a line that is recorded and notarized. He hesitated. He wasn't a villain. He was a man with a job and a timesheet and a boss who told him where to be. He studied the paper, then looked past me at the oak. Pretty tree, he said, like it was a secret. The best, Daniel said. The man rubbed his neck, then made a choice I will never forget. He raised a hand to his crew. We're off this section, he said. We'll wait on the call. Thank you, I said. It mattered to say it. Not everyone in this story gets to be a hero. Some people just don't make a bad thing worse. That counts too. They left. Under the streetlight, the ribbon fluttered like a little flag. I stood there longer than I needed to, because the ground under my feet felt like it remembered me. Then I went home, tired in the bones, the kind of tired that comes with doing a thing your heart demanded. There was one more thing to do. I took a small trowel and a flashlight and went to the oak on the Morrow lot, the side that was still mine by memory even if the paper said otherwise. I knelt where the roots make a shallow bowl. The soil gave like a friend. I dug careful, slow, until metal kissed my trowel. The tin. I lifted it out, hands trembling, and opened it on my knees like it was a treasure chest. Inside, the scrap of paper we'd written on the roof under a sky full of promise. The kid writing was crooked and fierce. We won't sell the house if we can help it. We will fix it. We will love it. We will choose it over shiny things. Ethan and Maya, age 13 and 15, with little hearts that looked like potatoes. I felt my breath hitch and then even out. I put the paper in my pocket, not to keep it safe from the world, only to keep me safe from me. My phone buzzed in my palm. A text from an unknown number. Careful where you dig. Deals have roots too. For a second I saw Conrad's capped pen. Greg's folded arms. Pierce's side door slip. Or maybe it was nobody at all, just a coward with a blocked number. I looked up at the oak, at the ribbon line, at the house that still knew my name even if I had to speak it louder now. I typed back, good, I like roots. Then I put my phone away and leaned my forehead against the bark. The tree was cool and solid and older than all of us. Tomorrow. A man with a clipboard would come at dawn and try to call this just a tree. Tomorrow, I'd bring a town to show him what family looks like when it grows in the ground. Dawn shows up blue and unsure, the kind of light that makes the street look like it's thinking. At 6:45, I'm at the fence in a hoodie with my hair stuffed under a beanie, a thermos of tea in my hands, and a feeling in my chest like a drum. The ribbon line we put up last night catches the breeze and makes a small whispering sound. They come at 7 sharp, just like Lydia said. 2 trucks with city logos. A woman in a bright vest who looks like she grew up climbing trees and never stopped. Clipboard, measuring tape. A man with a camera on a pole. A third person checking for utility lines. Neighbors drift in as if the wind told them the time. Pastor Amy, scarfed against the cold, holding a box of donuts like a weapon made of sugar. Ethan with coffee he calls church strength. Daniel, hands in pockets, chin set. Ruth won't be here. The morning is hard on her, but she sent her blessing and a knitted hat that makes me look like a blueberry. Alton from the bakery, already flour-dusted. Mrs. Hodge, the clerk, in her cardigan, ready to be stern at paperwork. A few of the high school kids I know from the gallery, wide-eyed and brave, holding poster board signs that say simple things like "Save our oak," and "We live here." "Morning," the woman in the vest says. She has gray at her temples and a face the sun has written on kindly. "I'm Jenna, the city's certified arborist. We're here to assess the heritage tree in relation to the proposed project." I step forward, my voice is steady. "I'm Maya, this is Ruth's lot. We recorded an option yesterday. We posted notice to cease entry on this parcel. You can stand on the public sidewalk. You can look as long as you want. You cannot step over this line without Ruth's or my consent." I point to the ribbon and the stake with the stamped paper. Jenna reads it. The man with the camera leans in. They aren't villains. Most people aren't. They're here because someone with a schedule told them to be here. "We can assess from the sidewalk," Jenna says. Her tone is professional, not combative. "I can do crown and canopy estimates and describe the likely critical root zone. For exact route mapping, we'd need to bring in non-invasive ground-penetrating radar and an air spade. But that's later, if we get permission." "All from the sidewalk," I say. She nods. "All from the sidewalk." She walks the length of the fence, eye on the oak. Her fingers twitch, measuring without measuring. She speaks into a recorder. "Quercus virginiana, estimated age 120 to 150 years. Crown spread approximately 62 feet. Trunk diameter approximately 40 inches at breast height. Canopy appears healthy with minor deadwood typical for age. Critical root zone estimated by standard formula at roughly 1 foot of radius per inch of trunk diameter. So, 40 feet. Drip line visible here," she gestures, and the circle she's describing is big enough to swallow most of our yard and half of Ruth's. "Root pruning within the critical zone would destabilize the tree," says a voice beside me. I turn. Mr. Patel, who runs the garden center and knows more about soil than anyone I've ever met, steps up with a letter in his hand. "I wrote this as you asked," he tells me. "Simple words. You can read it at the hearing. And now I'll stand here and nod like a prophet in a cartoon." He winks, and something in me unclenches. Jenna turns to him. "You're the local horticulturist." "Retired engineer," he says. "Part-time plant preacher." She smiles despite herself. "You're not wrong. This tree has a wide, shallow system. Any trenching, even for utilities inside that circle, will stress it. Even selective cutting of roots could destabilize one side." "Plain English," Pastor Amy says gently, looking at the teenagers holding signs. Jenna nods. "Cut too many roots, the tree can fall or get sick or both." She looks at me. "You filed to protect it." "My grandmother did when she was alive," I say, pride and sorrow in the same breath. "I'm just holding the paper she left." Jenna studies my face for a second. "Your grandmother was smart," she says like a blessing. "I'll write my report clean. It'll say moving this tree's roots is not recommended, at all." A black SUV slides in behind us. Doors open. Conrad steps out, clean as a promise, flanked by a Vail project manager with a tablet and a man I've seen in too many Chambers photos, Councilman Pierce. He should not be here, not for this. Not on the sidewalk with the developer on the morning of an assessment. He tries to look casual, he fails. "Morning," he says, too bright. "Community involvement, love to see it." Pastor Amy doesn't bother to hide her frown. "Councilman," she says, "you here as a neighbor or as a vote?" "Just keeping an eye on things," he says. His gaze flicks to Conrad. They both do that thing where their faces smooth out like sheet cake. Conrad steps forward, hands in his coat pockets. "We're respecting the notice," he says. "We wouldn't overstep." "You already tried," Ethan mutters. Conrad ignores him and looks at me. "We're offering to hire a second arborist for an independent view," he says. "On us." "Hire a choir if you want," I say. "It doesn't change the song." Jenna finishes her verbal notes and tucks her recorder away. I'll send my report to the Planning Commission this afternoon, she says. Maya, I'll email you a copy. Thank you, I say. We'll be there Thursday. See you then, she says. She's not a crusader. She's a person doing a job, but her presence feels like a fence made of facts. Sometimes that's the strongest kind. After the city crew leaves, the crowd thins. People go to work. Kids walk to school. The street remembers it is a street, not a theater. Conrad hangs back, talking quietly to Pierce, their heads close. I watch them. They watch me watch them. I don't look away. Let them know I have eyes. My phone buzzes. Lydia, records request came back fast. Pre-application notes show staff referred to strong council support for variance. Also, we have copies of campaign donations from Vale to Pierce's last run. All legal, but optics, I'm printing. Another buzz. Lydia again. Also, Carla got me the seller disbursement sheet from closing. There's a line. Consulting fee to G. Morrow for $22,500 paid from buyer credits. I'm sorry. I sit down on the curb because the world tilts for a second. Daniel sees my face and crouches beside me. What? He asks. I show him the text. His mouth thins. You'll want proof, he says. Lydia has it. Good. He looks up at the SUV. You going to show this now? Not here, I say, though the urge to stand up and shout is strong. At the hearing, in front of a room with microphones. You're your grandmother, he says. And I think it might be the best thing anyone has ever said about me. By mid-morning, I'm at Lydia's office with a printer humming like a hive. She spreads papers on the table. Pre-app notes, she says, tapping a stapled packet with margins marked in 2 different pens. Staff wrote variance feasible with council support. Developer assures tree health. That's not illegal. It's just assuming the end. Like they already ate the meal and now they're washing the dishes, I say. She slides another packet. Campaign donations. Vale subsidiary donated within legal limits to Pierce's campaign last year. Again, legal. But if he's going to vote, we can argue appearance of bias. And this, I ask, fingers hovering over the document that feels like a live wire. She pushes it closer. Closing disbursement. Sourced from your aunt through your mom, she asked because she wanted a clean record for taxes. It lists payments to the title company, the agent, the seller's credits, and this. Consulting fee to G. Morrow. I trace the line with my finger. The lump in my throat is new and heavy. Does Mom know? Not the number, Lydia says. She knew he was spending time on it. She told Carla she assumed he'd invoice later for hours. She didn't know Vale paid him, at closing from the buyer side. I stare at the numbers. The paper gives me the steadiness reality won't. I'll show it when he can't explain it away, I say. He'll try, he'll say it's standard, he'll say he earned it, but he kept it quiet. He knew what silence meant. Lydia nods. We'll bundle this with your petition, the arborist report, and the notice you posted. We'll also add the drainage easement document. The staff report might pretend you don't exist. Your packet will fix that. I spend the afternoon building a stack that looks like a book you could build a house on. Pastor Amy comes by with a list of speakers who'll show up and say names into a microphone like they're reading a family tree. Ethan brings photos. The wedding under the oak, the flood map with our street high and dry. Mr. Patel writes me a sentence in the simplest words. If you cut the roots, the tree gets weak and can fall. A child can understand it. That's the point. In the evening, we gather under the oak for something that isn't quite a rally and isn't not. The teenagers hang string lights like they're decorating a backyard, not a battlefield. Alton sets out a platter of cinnamon rolls the size of my face. The high school art teacher brought paints and blank cardboard, and a dozen pairs of hands turn into signs that say things like, promise means something here. Do cut what holds us. We are the drainage plan. A woman I don't know very well, she lives 3 doors down and keeps to herself, steps up to me with a folded bill. I can't come Thursday, she says, but this is for the lot next door. I don't have much. This is bus money I keep in a jar. I can walk this week. I press the money back, gentle. You keep your bus money, I tell her. Just come stand with us when you can. She doesn't argue. She tucks the bill into the jar we set on a table with a hand-painted sign. Harbor Lane Land Trust, Save Our Roots. People drop 1s and 5s and 20s like a liturgy. It isn't enough to buy the world. It is enough to say, we are not an audience here. We are actors. Near the end, as the sky is purple and the lights look like stars, Mom comes down the sidewalk, slow and steady, with Carla on one side and a cane on the other. The crowd parts. She reaches me and puts her hand on my cheek. You carried me today, she says. Let me walk to you now. You should be resting, I say, even as I wrap her up in a hug that smells like cinnamon and lemon cleaner and everything good. I will, she says, after I say this. She turns to the small circle of people around us. I made fear loud by letting the wrong person hold the pen, she says. My daughter is making love louder. That's the sound you're hearing tonight. Pastor Amy says, Amen, under her breath and wipes her eyes with her sleeve. Mom touches the trunk of the oak with the tips of her fingers. It's a small gesture that feels like a vow. By the time I crawl into bed, the stack of papers on the table looks like a fort. I sleep under the weight of it. It should crush me. Somehow it holds me up. The days before a hearing move fast and slow at the same time, like when you push against the tide. You are working, and you are not moving, and then suddenly you are somewhere new. Wednesday morning, Lydia texts, staff report posted. Bring highlighters. The report is what I expected and what I feared. It calls our street an opportunity corridor. It uses phrases like underutilized lot. It praises economic activation. It references heritage protections but calls them balanced against housing need. It lists the oak as a resource, which is a word that fits in a brochure but not in my throat. It suggests granting the variance with conditions. One condition, certified arborist to monitor root work. Another, rain garden to offset altered drainage. It reads clean. It reads like a yes with polite shoes. We meet at Lydia's office with highlighters that turn bad sentences neon. Pastor Amy circles monitor root work so many times the page looks dizzy. Mr. Patel writes no across root work in big letters you can see from a block away. Ethan traces the map and mutters. Daniel makes a list of points that sounds like a marching order. Lydia goes through procedure like a coach. Public comment will be limited to 2 minutes per person, she says. You can cede time to someone else if the chair allows, but don't count on it. Keep it plain, keep it true, don't get baited, don't get fancy. Fancy is for cakes, Alton says, then flushes because he didn't mean to be funny. Cakes and lies, Pastor Amy adds, and now everyone is laughing in that relief way it happens when you get to make a joke in a room full of worry. I spend the afternoon on calls. The credit union manager, Leela, who has known me since I opened a savings account with paper route money, agrees to meet me for a bridge loan on the gray lot. We can pre-approve pending closing, she says. You have collateral in the lot itself. Ruth and Daniel are extending a note for part of it. It's tight, but it's not impossible. She pauses. Your grandmother used to bake for the branch, she says. That doesn't matter on paper, but hearts count too. We set up a fundraiser Sunday after service, under the oak. Alton donates a cake. The high school jazz trio promises music. The art teacher organizes a silent auction of small paintings, seascapes, boats, the oak itself. I put 2 framed prints from the gallery into the pile and tape a small tag to the back. All proceeds to Harbor Lane Land Trust. In the evening, there is one more meeting I have to have and wish I didn't. Mom asks me to come by her room. Carla stays, sits quiet, hands around a cup of tea. Mom looks steadier today. Her eyes are clear. The blanket doesn't seem to weigh as much on her legs. She pats the bed and I sit. Greg took a fee, I say. I don't know how to soften it without making it stick less. She stares at a spot on the wall for one long breath, then another. How much? She asks. I tell her. The number hangs in the air like bad music. She closes her eyes. He told me he was covering costs and time, she whispers. He told me we couldn't afford a lawyer to hold our hand. He said he'd be our hands. He never said Vale would pay him more than I bring home in months. I have the paper, I say. Lydia found it. Carla asked for a copy. It's clean. It's all there. Carla's jaw is a line. I didn't know, she says, voice rough. I should have. I should have asked for every sheet and read it until the ink wore off. You were keeping your sister breathing, I say. He was counting on that. Mom's face crumples and then smooths. It hurts to see. It hurts more not to say the thing. Do you want me to let it go? I ask. Do you want me to keep this in a drawer and hope it stops smelling? She looks at me with the eyes that taught me my own. I raised you to tell the truth, she says. Tell it, but don't let it turn you mean. I already made that mistake once. It costs double to fix. I nod. I won't shout to shout, I say. I'll shout to say this is ours, this is wrong, this is not how you love people. Good, she says. Then I can sleep tonight. Greg doesn't come by that evening. For once, I'm grateful. I don't have room for his reasonable tone in my head with the hearing tomorrow. Thursday arrives dressed like Judgment Day. Blue sky with streaks of cloud like underlines. We line up outside the town hall a half hour early and still somehow we are fifth. The air buzzes. People talk low. Cameras from the local news set up in the back, cords snaking between chairs like vines. The planning commissioners sit on the dais with water bottles and packet binders. The staff planner clears his throat and clicks his slides. The first few items are small. A fence, a porch, a boat shed. They go quick. And then, public hearing, Vale coastal developments, heritage tree variants, and drainage easement modification. Conrad walks to the podium with a folder like it was made for his hand. His lawyer is at his elbow. The slides appear, renderings of small cottages with blue shutters and white railings, people on bikes, a dog, a woman with a sun hat. The oak is there, smaller than it is in real life. Our goal, he says, smooth, warm, is to bring thoughtful, low-impact housing that honors the character of Harbor Lane. We listened to feedback. We shortened roof lines. We introduced a boardwalk with public access. We will bring jobs and new tax revenue. We will protect the tree with certified professionals. His lawyer takes the mic and talks about balancing interests and reasonable accommodation. When she says root work, Mr. Patel inhales like he's been slapped. The staff planner recommends approval with conditions. His voice is dry and tidy. He calls our oak the heritage element. He calls the drainage manageable. The chair opens the floor. 2 minutes per speaker. Please state your name. We stand. Pastor Amy goes first because of course she does. My name is Amy Keller, she says. My church is half a mile from that oak. We've baptized under its leaves and married under its shade. Protecting it is not nostalgia. It is wisdom. Mr. Patel is next. Raj Patel, he says into the microphone. If you cut the roots, the tree gets weak and can fall. Do not cut the roots. He sits down. The simplicity is a club. Mrs. Hodge speaks. The art teacher. The fisherman. A woman who moved here last year and cried because the oak made her feel like she'd finally arrived somewhere. Another who grew up here and left and came back because the oak hadn't left. Then me. I stand and for a second the room is too big and I am too small. Then I think of Grandma's letter, of the hand-drawn map with the word breathe, and I start. My name is Maya Morrow, I say. I grew up in the house under that tree. My grandmother recorded a covenant to protect it when she was alive. I hold that paper now, but even if I didn't, the roots would still be there, holding this street whether you approve it or not. I hold up a page. This is a notice we recorded yesterday. I exercised an option to purchase the lot next door, signed 15 years ago by my grandmother and her neighbor. We recorded the exercise. We posted legal notice. Vale does not own the lot they intend to adjust. They cannot cut roots that cross a boundary they do not control. They cannot trench on a parcel they do not own. We are not talking about a hypothetical. We are talking about legal lines in the ground. I hold up another. This is the city arborist's report. It says cutting roots within the critical zone would destabilize this tree. No monitoring will make that less true. I hold up a third. This is a public record of campaign donations from Vale to Councilman Pierce. It may be legal, but it does not look like a level table. I ask that he recuse himself due to the appearance of bias. You could hear the room inhale on that one. Pierce shifts in his seat. The city attorney leans over to whisper to the chair. The chair clears his throat. Councilman Pierce, would you like to respond? Pierce adjusts his tie and leans into his mic. My donations are publicly reported and within legal limits, he says. I can be impartial. Pastor Amy lifts her hand from the audience without standing. We prefer recusal to faith, she says. It makes people laugh, which makes the tension crack like ice. The chair consults with the city attorney again, then looks pained. Given the nature of the comments, and to preserve the integrity of the proceedings, I will ask Councilman Pierce to recuse himself from this item. Pierce blanches and gets up, leaving an empty chair that looks like a story told too loud. I take a breath. I could stop here. I don't. This, I say, voice steady as I can make it, is the closing disbursement from the sale of my family home. It shows a $22,500 consulting fee to my stepfather, paid by Vale. My mother did not know. My aunt did not know. My brother did not know. The buyer paid the man who said he was holding our hands. When I say this is not a level table, I am not speaking in poetry. I am describing the wood. The room is a living thing. People murmur. Someone says, "Oh," the way you say when something obvious finally turns its face. Conrad's jaw tightens for the first time since I met him. His lawyer presses her lips together like she has swallowed a lemon seed. I hold the mic with both hands. We are not against building, I say. We are against erasing. We are against pretending a covenant is a suggestion. We are against cutting what holds us and asking us to clap while you do it. The staff report says balance. Balance is not code for bend until it breaks. Balance is roots and soil and water and houses that still know their neighbors' names. Please deny this variance. Please respect the easement and the tree. Please make Vale build around us instead of through us. I sit down. My legs feel like someone else. Ethan squeezes my knee under the table until it hurts just enough to remind me I'm here. Conrad goes back to the podium. He doesn't smile. He's too smart to. We disagree with Ms. Morrow's characterization of the consulting arrangement, he says, cool. It's standard practice for community liaisons to be compensated for time. We have emails showing Mr. Morrow provided valuable assistance navigating local concerns. The chair holds up a hand. We're not litigating private contracts here, he says sharply. The lawyer tugs Conrad's sleeve. That is as much of a crack as we'll get today. They open the floor for questions from the commission. The woman at the end asks about the arborist's report. The man in the middle asks if they can redesign to avoid the root zone. The staff planner says, yes, in theory, so many times it starts to sound like no in practice. Then the vote. I hold my breath without meaning to. Pastor Amy whispers a prayer I don't recognize but want to. Mr. Patel looks at the ceiling like it can help. The chair clears his throat. On the heritage tree variance, motion to deny, based on the arborist's report and the inability to mitigate root zone impacts. All in favor. Hands 1, 2, 3, opposed. 1, the variance is denied. The room exhales. I cry without sound. Ethan presses his forehead to my shoulder for half a second like we used to when we were kids and the teacher said something kind. On the drainage easement modification, the chair continues, given the new information regarding ownership of the adjacent parcel and recorded notices, I move to continue this item to a date certain to allow staff to evaluate ownership and rights. All in favor. Hands. Unanimous. Pushed. Stalled. Hours for now. The hearing adjourns like a wave settling. People clap. People hug. People take videos of the oak like it did the work. Maybe it did. Conrad leaves through the side door without looking at us. His lawyer follows, jaw tight. Pierce is nowhere. The cameras catch our tired smiles and our damp eyes. Pastor Amy laughs her bright laugh like bells. Mr. Patel buys me a soda from the machine because victory tastes better with sugar. Outside in the sunlight, I hold the denial letter in my hand and feel something I haven't in a week. My feet on the ground. Not floating. Not drowning. Standing. It would be nice if the story ended at the hearing with a perfect bow. It doesn't. The morning after a win is always full of brooms. Still, we have leverage. And leverage is a way to move the world without breaking your back. By noon, there's an email from Conrad's assistant. Request for meeting to discuss path forward. His tone is new, not just charming. Careful, that's something. I send back, tomorrow at 10, neutral ground, Lydia's office. Lydia reads it and half smiles. Neutralish, she says. But yes, we like a room with our paperwork in it. I spend the afternoon with Daniel and Leela at the credit union finalizing the bridge loan for the gray lot. Paper, signatures, more paper. It feels like a river I don't know how to swim. Leela throws me a rope. We can do a 12-month interest-only bridge with Ruth's note as subordinate, she says. When the land trust seals grants, you refinance into a standard. It's not magic. It's a path. Land trust, Daniel says, tasting the words. Alan used to talk about that like it was a fairy tale. It's a spreadsheet fairy tale, Leela says. The best kind. We set the closing date for Tuesday. I text Ruth. We're almost there. She sends back a heart and a picture of the oak from her window with a caption that says, simply, mine, yours, ours. At sunset, the town shows up on our street like it always does when someone is sick or someone marries or someone builds a deck, with pies and paint and bodies. The teenagers tidy the ribbon line. The fishermen fix a leaning fence post. The art teacher touches up signs. It's not about optics. It's about saying with hands what we already said with voices. We are here. Greg shows up when the sky is purple. He stands in the street with his hands in his pockets, the picture of a man who thinks his hands can hide the truth. Mom is not with him. Carla is at the clinic late. Ethan looks at me like, do you want me to stand between you? I shake my head. Congratulations, Greg says. His smile is tight. You got your little win. It's a big one, I say, and it's not just mine. He looks at the ribbon at the people. You humiliated me, he says softly, in front of the whole town. You did that, I say, my voice steady. You took a fee from the buyer and kept it from the people you say you love. You told us the table was level while you stood on a box. His mouth twitches. You don't understand how these things work. I understand how love works, I say. It doesn't hide the check. He steps closer. Do you want us to lose the lease back? Do you want your mother to be without a roof while you wave your paper around? I step closer too, so he has to decide whether to take a step back. He does. I want you to stop using her fear as a tool, I say. I want you to stop calling the door you closed weather. He shakes his head, a man baffled by a sky that won't do what he asked. You're burning bridges, he says. I'm building one, I say and point at the oak. It's right there. He leaves. No dramatic words. No slammed car door. Just a man who doesn't know how to be seen and be small at the same time. Morning comes, and with it the meeting. Lydia has her hair pulled back and her eyes focused in that way that means she is lining sentences up like soldiers. She puts a pitcher of water on the table and a stack of fresh notepads just to be mean. I love her a little for it. Conrad arrives alone. No lawyer, no assistant. He looks a little tired around the edges like a guy who slept with one eye open. He sits. He smiles. It doesn't quite fit his face today. Thank you for meeting, he says. We'd like to avoid more theater. Public oversight, Lydia says, smiling like a knife. We love it. He lifts a hand. Fine, oversight. The point is we can't build what we planned. We're not going to pretend otherwise. Our investors won't tolerate endless delay. He glances at me. You've made a point. Respect. Now let's make a deal. What deal? I ask. You sell us the gray lot, he says, as if he's offering me a sandwich. We pay over assessed value. We pay a premium for your trouble. We agree to arborist monitoring. You get a payout you can use to help your mother. Everyone wins. No, I say. That's the old game dressed up new. He leans back. Then what do you want? I don't make him wait. I've been practicing this sentence in my head for a week. You sell my family home back to us, I say. At the price you paid plus closing costs, you walk away from the variance. You redesign your project to avoid the oak's root zone in my lot. You apply for permits that reflect the actual parcels you own. You commit in writing to a conservation buffer around the tree. You build fewer cottages. You build better. You work with the land, not against it. You make your money more slowly. You call it sustainable and actually mean it. He laughs, a short sound that doesn't have air. That's not a deal, he says. That's a surrender. It's a compromise with a tree, I say. It's a deal with a street. If you say no, I record a permanent conservation easement on the gray lot this afternoon. one that will make your architects cry. I go to the State Heritage Commission. I go to the press. I hold up your donations and your consultant fees and your pre-app notes, and I build a story that makes it impossible for your investors to spell the word variance. And I keep showing up. You will spend a year to get to a place you could agree to today. He studies me like I'm a map that keeps changing. You'd put a permanent easement on your own land, he asks. Yes, I say. I'd rather have ours forever than maybe yours in 6 months. He's quiet long enough for Lydia to pour water and not offer him any. Finally, he sighs. It sounds like money leaving his pockets in slow motion. You'll need cash to buy your house back, he says. Do you have it? I have a credit union and a town, I say, and a land trust forming fast. We'll find the rest. He taps his fingers on the table. I need a win, he says. I can cut units. I can shift the footprint, but selling back the parcel, my partners will call it weakness. Call it vision, Lydia says. You pivoted when the facts changed. Investors don't like poetry, he says. Neither do trees, I say. He almost smiles. You're annoying, he says without heat. So are you, I say. That's why we're here. He stands. I'll take it to my people, he says, but the number won't be pretty. Make it honest, I say. Pretty is cheap. He leaves. Lydia sits back and lets out a breath she was holding. You were good, she says. I should record my clients and sell motivational tapes. I was terrified, I admit. I faked it. That's 90% of my job, she says dryly. Now we wait. We don't wait idly. Sunday comes. Under the Oak draws more people than Easter. The jazz kids play a song they call Harbor Lane Blues, and it's cheerful in that way music can be, where it takes your sadness and makes it something you can dance to. Ruth sits on the porch like a queen, drinking lemonade through a straw. She looks at the crowd and whispers, Alan, you'd love this, as if he's just inside grabbing the good tray. People bring envelopes. People bring checks with shaky zeros. A man I've never met hands me a note that says, simply, we need old trees to make new stories. Pastor Amy steps to the little microphone we set up on a folding chair and says a few words that make everyone laugh and cry in the right measures. We're not saving a tree, she says. We're saving the way we behave around one another. The oak is just the best listener among us. The art auction raises more than we guessed. Leela from the credit union brings paperwork we sign on a picnic table with a tablecloth that won't lie flat because the grass is stubborn. Kids run around with cupcake frosting on their faces. For a moment, the future looks like the present we deserve. Monday morning, Conrad's email arrives. Subject line, counterproposal. The number is higher than we wanted. Not insulting, not generous. Lydia calculates. Leela counsels. Daniel squints at the zeros. We make a counter of our own. Fewer zeros, stronger conditions. The emails bounce like tennis until they slow. Tuesday, we close on the gray lot in a small room at the title office with a plant by the window that needs water and a painting of sea oats that looks like it was made by someone in a hurry. Ruth and Daniel sign, smiling with that bittersweet tilt joy has when it's letting go. I sign with hands that don't shake. Lydia notarizes with ceremony. Leela hands me a folder with tabs like a first day of school. Ruth hugs me after. Her voice is soft in my ear. Miriam would be dancing, she says, probably to the worst song she could find. I walk out into the sunshine holding a deed. It's a piece of paper. It weighs like a planet. It's time to finish the other half. Negotiations are strange. You talk about numbers when what you mean is love. You talk about appraisals when you are measuring the weight of your own breath. Still, the math has to be made to work, or you end up with a heart full of the right and a house full of empty. Conrad meets us halfway. He agrees to redesign away from the root zone. He agrees to withdraw the variance. He agrees to a conservation buffer around the oak and a promise to leave the gray lot entirely untouched, except for a fence and native plantings. He agrees to public access that feels like a shared front yard, not a marketing bullet. He says, we can't sell the parcel back at our purchase price. We have carrying costs. We have design sunk costs. We have lawyers who like to eat. He gives a number that makes Lydia frown, Leela hiss softly, and Daniel say a word I won't repeat in church. We counter. He balks. We counter again. Hours go by like chewing. At one point, I put my head on Lydia's conference table and stare at a water ring until it looks like a planet. Finally, he says, "What if we sell at cost plus a modest fee and you agree not to oppose the scaled-down plan publicly?" I sit up. "We won't lie," I say. "We won't call it perfect. But if you protect the oak and sell us our home, we will not campaign against your smaller cottages. We will even speak at the hearing and say, this is how you pivot when a town speaks." He eyes me. "Will you be kind?" "I will be honest," I say. "And yes, kinder than you probably deserve, but not for you, for us." He thinks, his jaw works, he nods once. "Fine," he says. "I'll take the hit. It will make next week ugly for me. But long-term, if this lets me build something, my people will keep eating." "Good," Lydia says, shaking his hand like she's sealing a weather change. "Then we draft." We draft for 2 days. Contracts that say in too many words what we all know. The oak gets to be old without someone cutting its feet. The gray lot becomes a little shoulder where the town can lean. The cottages grow like mushrooms in a place that can hold them, not like a rash. The sale back to us is the part that takes the most faith. Leela works miracles. The land trust steps in with pledges that turn into cash. The branch manager who watched me count coins in a dish when I was 12 calls in favors I didn't know she had. People hand me envelopes after church. People slide checks across my counter at the gallery in a way that tries to look casual and fails beautifully. And then there's Greg. He shows up the night before we sign, standing on the sidewalk with his hands out slightly, palms empty, a mime of apology. "Lena wants you to talk to me," he says. "She wants us to find a way to be neighbors again." "I will always be your neighbor," I say. "My door is shut." He flinches. "You think I took that fee because I wanted slippers for Christmas?" he says, a little heat showing through his good citizen coat. "I put hours in, days. I took meetings so your mother could sleep. I pulled permits faster than staff wanted to move. I pushed the bank so they wouldn't call the note. I kept this whole thing from collapsing." "You kept me from knowing," I say. "That's what you did. You made yourself the only bridge and then charged a toll." "It's how things get done," he says. "You think donors at your little bake sale are how people keep roofs. Wake up." "I woke up," I say. "And I found out the person in our bed was working for the person at the other end of the table." He exhales hard. "If you blow this deal," he says and points at the ground like he can nail the moment there, "you will never get that house back. Conrad will take the hit, sure, but he will not take a bath. He will litigate the lot line until you are old. He will charm your pastor and this town will forget in 2 years why they were mad. Take the offer. Stop trying to punish. Move home. Let me be the one who did the ugly work so you could live in peace." Ethan is on the steps, knees up, arms folded over them, head down. When he hears my car door, he stands too fast and almost trips on the top stair. He looks like the kid who broke the window with a tennis ball and tried to pretend the crack in the glass was a reflection. "Hi," he says, and his voice is small. "Inside," I say. I don't know if I sound angry or tired, maybe both. We sit at the kitchen table like strangers renting a script. I put the recorder's receipt on the table without meaning to, like I am setting proof of my own heartbeat between us. Ethan stares at it, then at me. "What is that?" "The reason Conrad is going to stop sleeping well," I say. "I exercised Grandma's option for the lot next door. I recorded it. I'm buying it." He blinks. "You what?" "I bought the leverage that should have been ours," I say. "I know you met with him. I know you signed the house. You can start explaining now." He rubs his hands over his face so hard I worry he'll scrub his own features away. He takes a breath. "Mom is sick, Maya." The words land like a wave. I knew. I didn't want to know. Hearing them cracks something in me anyway. "How sick?" He swallows. "She's been getting treatments. It got bad in August. The clinic helped. She's been carrying so much. There were bills. Insurance is a game and we don't have the rule book. Greg said he could fix it. He said he knew people. He said we could do a sale and buy it back later. He said we'd lease it until we got on our feet and then take it back. He made it sound simple." "He makes lots of things sound simple," I say. My voice wobbles and I keep it from falling. You told me we would talk before any of this. I tried, he says, voice raw. He kept changing dates. He said we needed to move fast or we'd lose the deal or the bank would step in. There was a notice from the bank, Maya. We were behind. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to sell your car or your bones to fix it. I didn't want you to look at me and see another bill. The room feels smaller. The clean rental walls don't have anywhere to put this. So you sold our anchor, I say. You let him do it. I signed, he says. He doesn't try to soften it. Mom did too. Carla, because the lawyer said clean title is clean title. Greg, he was so sure. He laughs once, a broken sound. When is he not sure? He told me not to call you until it was done so you would sabotage the process with emotion. In other words, I say, so I wouldn't stop him. I don't know, Ethan says, and it sounds like a confession. I watched him and Conrad at the diner like they were already neighbors. They had those papers spread out, and it looked like the answer to a question I didn't know how to ask. I'm not proud of that. Behind the anger, something else wells up. Grief for him, for the kid who thought an adult at a table meant safety. Did Conrad say leaseback? Yes, he says. 6 months, friendly terms. Then there was a clause about improvements and a clause about access, and it's like the paper changed when it got printed. Carla said we'd get a chance to review with a different attorney, and then the appointment got moved and Greg said we'd miss the window and he stops. I'm not making excuses. I'm telling you the water got fast and I didn't know how to swim. Greg steered, I say. He nods, miserable. I'm sorry. I want to hit something. I want to hold him. I do neither. I put my hands flat on the table so I don't do something I'll regret to the one person in this house who learned the world in the same rooms I did. Mom knew, I ask. I'm afraid to hear yes. I'm afraid to hear no. She knew pieces, he says. She knew the bank. She knew the roof. She knew about the leaseback. She believed Greg when he said temporary. She was so tired, Maya. She wanted a nap from fear. He gave her one. I don't care if he makes fear sleepy, I say. I care that he put a bow on it and called it a solution. Ethan looks at the receipt again. You really bought the lot. I exercised the option, I say. Ruth agreed. Lydia recorded it. Conrad already tried to shake it loose and couldn't. Our oak has protections too. Grandma did that for us. This doesn't get our house back, not yet, but it puts my hands on a lever that moves their plans. He nods slowly. You're going to make it hurt, he says, not unkindly. I'm going to make it honest, I say. If they want to build on our bones, they're going to have to measure each one. You always were better with maps, he says, a small smile breaking through the wreckage. My phone buzzes. A new email. Subject line, notice of public hearing, variance and tree covenant. My stomach drops and climbs at the same time. I open it. The Town Planning Commission. Next Thursday. Vale Coastal Developments requests a variance to modify heritage tree protections and adjust drainage easement access in connection with proposed redevelopment at 14 Harbor Lane and adjacent parcels. Adjacent parcels. My hands go cold. They intend to fold the gray lot into their plan as if they already own it. The hearing is in 6 days. They're moving fast, I say, showing Ethan my screen. He reads and swears softly under his breath. They think you'll freeze. I won't, I say. There's a knock at the door. 3 quick taps, like someone who doesn't want to be there. I open it and Carla stands on the step with a paper bag and tired eyes, her scrub top faded at the seams. I brought soup, she says, and things you don't need, but that made me feel useful. She holds up the bag. There's bread too, and the good butter, and tea you forgot you like. I step back. She comes in. Ethan stays in his chair, penitent. She looks at the receipt on the table. She doesn't reach for it. She looks at me instead. I heard, she says. Ruth called me. She said your grandmother is still bossing us around from the good part of heaven. I want to be angry at her. I am, but love makes my anger complicated. You signed our house to a man who smiles like a billboard, I say. Did you think I'd just get used to it? Did you think I'd call it progress and bake a pie? Her mouth trembles. She composes it. No, she says. I thought you'd do exactly what you're doing. I hoped you would. I hoped someone would put their body in front of the thing and say no. I couldn't. She swallows. I had to get your mother through a day, then another. What's wrong with her? I asked quietly. I want to hear it from you. She looks at Ethan. He nods. She looks at me. We'll tell you everything tomorrow, she says, voice careful. After her scans, she wanted to be in the room when the words were said. But I can tell you this, she loves you fiercely. She did not keep you out to hurt you. She kept you out to shield you, and in doing that, she hurt you. Both things can be true. I blink hard. What about Greg? I ask. The name tastes like a penny. Carla's jaw sets. Greg is a man who believes a plan is a kind of love, she says. He didn't plan for your grandmother's paper. He didn't plan for you. She glances at the email on my screen. We have 6 days to make a room hear us. I'll make them here, I say. I'll bring the tree if I have to. She almost smiles. Don't bring the tree, she says. Bring the town. Ethan sits forward. I can get Cal from the marina, he says. He owes me at least 3 favors I never called in, and Mrs. Ruth has friends who think clipboards are weapons. I'll talk to the gallery, I say, and Pastor Amy, and the kids who run the cleanup days, and Alton, if you'll forgive me for saying his peach pie is not enough to bribe my neighbor. That gets a real laugh from Carla, quick and wet. Lydia will help with the paperwork and the hearing rules, Carla says. She's good at making boring words line up to do the job. I'll gather medical letters if we need to show hardship, though I hate that word. It sounds like a coat you can take off when you're done with it. My phone buzzes again. Unknown number. This is a courtesy text from Vale Coastal Developments reminding neighbors of our community Q&A tomorrow at noon. Coffee and pastries provided. Learn about jobs, sidewalks, and how this project will bring new life to your street. Jobs and sidewalks, I say, and a bulldozer through our story. Then we write a better one, Carla says. She puts the bag on the counter and pulls out a jar of that honey she buys from the farmer with the crooked hat. Eat, she says, like that can fix everything. Maybe it can fix one thing. Night settles outside like a shawl. The rental hums. The 3 of us stand in the tiny kitchen with soup bowls cupped in our hands, a strange family that doesn't know where to put its eyes. I think of the oak, of the circle under its roots where a tin box holds a promise written by 2 kids who believed their words could be a fence. After Carla leaves and Ethan promises to meet me at the Q&A with every fisherman who ever drank coffee on our porch, I step out onto the stoop and look toward our house. The chain will be across the gate. The sign will be there in the morning like a bad joke that lasts too long. But under the soil on the next lot over, a root system doesn't care about property lines. It feeds both yards. It doesn't ask who signed what. The hearing is in 6 days. Tomorrow they will try to buy hearts with pastries. Tomorrow I will show up with something sweeter. The truth. And maybe, if I'm honest, with a little bit of revenge dressed as justice. By noon the air tastes like sugar and something bitter. The flyer said coffee and pastries, and Vale Coastal delivers. The community center smells like cinnamon and fresh paint. There are balloons on the sign-in table, slick posters on easels with words like revitalization and coastal living, and a bowl of pens with the logo shining on the clips. If you squint, it looks like a party. If you don't, it looks like a plan. But before this, there was the morning. Carla met me outside the clinic with a paper cup of tea and eyes that told me to breathe. She wants you there, she said softly. She wants to do this with you, not to you. I followed her down a hall that smelled like lemon cleaner and quiet. Mom sat in a small room in a chair that reclined a little, an IV taped to the back of her hand, a blanket over her legs. Her face looked thinner and stronger at the same time, like all the softness had stepped aside so the steel could show. When she saw me, her mouth did that thing, smile, tremble, hold. Hi, baby, she said, and I was 6 and 35 at once. I took her hand. It was warm. She squeezed. We sat, and Carla closed the door, and the doctor came in and said words we had been circling like a storm. The kind of illness that doesn't ask permission, the kind that takes and keeps taking unless you make it stop with fire. He talked about cycles and scans and side effects. He talked about bills in a voice that tried to sound like it wasn't talking about money. Mom nodded the way brave people nod when they want to spare you and themselves. When the doctor left, We were 3 women in a small room holding a bigger thing than the walls could understand. "I should have told you sooner," Mom said, and the apology in her voice almost knocked me over. "I didn't because I kept thinking we'd get a better scan next time, or I'd feel strong next week, and then it would be a silly scare and we'd laugh at me for being dramatic." "You're allowed to be dramatic," I said, and a laugh broke out of me that was half cry. She wiped my face with the edge of the blanket like I was little again. "I didn't want you to look at me and see only this," she said. "I wanted to keep being your home." "You still are," I said, "even if the walls moved." She looked at Carla, then back at me. "Greg," she began, and I stiffened. "Greg did what Greg does. He saw moving pieces and thought if he could just arrange them, we'd all be okay. He believes in plans the way some people believe in God. I let him run when I should have made him walk. I said yes to things I should have said, let my girl read that. And every time I tried to slow us down, he had a reason that made me feel like I was the one holding the door shut on a burning room." "You signed because you were tired," I said. "I signed because I was scared," she whispered. "And I told myself we'd buy it back after 6 months and call it a bad dream. I am sorry I asked the world to be kinder than it is." "I found Grandma's letter," I told her. "About the lot next door, I exorcised it." Something like relief passed over her face. "Miriam," she said, like a prayer. "That woman was a chessboard in a world of checkers." "She set the table," Carla said. "You taught Maya where the plates go." Mom squeezed my hand again. "I love you," she said. "I did not keep you out to punish you. I kept you out because I wanted you to have one more morning without this heavy thing. I was wrong. You can hold more than I wanted you to." I nodded because words were going to break me if I pushed them out. "I'm here," I said, "and I'm not going anywhere." We were quiet, the kind that doesn't hurt. Then a shadow fell across the doorway. Greg. He stood there with his hands in his pockets like a man in a catalog, eyes scanning us, jaw working like he was chewing his arguments. "Lena," he said, and then to me, "Maya." "Now is not the time," Carla said, calm and sharp. "It's always the time when the house is on fire," he said, and looked at me. "I hear you went to Lydia. I hear you're stirring up Ruth." "I'm respecting paper your wife's mother signed," I said, "and protecting a tree that stood with us when you were still whistling on the porch." He smiled a smile he probably thought was kind. It had a hard edge. "You don't win by nostalgia," he said. "You win by moving fast. Conrad understands that." We secured terms that would allow a lease back, and we were this close to adding a right to repurchase after improvements. You throwing flags into the ground will make him take that off the table. "Then he never meant it," I said. "If an option scares him, his plan was to run us over and call the tire tracks progress." His voice dropped, reasonable, the tone that makes you doubt your own feet. "You don't know how the town works, Maya. You have feelings. The planning board has rules. We will get the variance. We will protect the tree on paper and move what we need in practice. You are going to burn your goodwill on a fight you cannot win. And then when you need help, all these people you riled up will be tired of you." "Stop," Mom said, weak but steady. He did, because even Greg knows the voice she uses when she means it. She turned to him. "If you speak to my daughter like she is a speed bump, we are done talking for a long time." He lifted his hands, a gesture of peace that looked like surrender and wasn't. "I'm trying to hold this together," he said. "For you." "Hold me," she said softly, "not the plan." He left, or maybe he fled. The air got lighter by a pound. Carla rubbed her eyes. "If he had a tail, it would be between his legs," she muttered. By noon, I was walking into Vale's Q&A with Ethan and 3 fishermen in rubber boots who looked at the free croissants like they'd rather have a plate of eggs and a better summer. Pastor Amy was there, hair in a bandana, smiling at everyone like a weapon. Alton from the bakery stood near the coffee table with his arms folded, not impressed by his own peach pies when they were being used as bait. The high school art teacher. Mrs. Hodge from the recorder's office. The town is a small tapestry. Every thread touches another. Conrad stood by the largest poster with a laser pointer like a magician. He wore a soft sweater now, weekend dad casual. He talked about walking paths and how the cottages would honor the sea. He said the word sustainable like a spell. When it was time for questions, hands went up slow, shy. The PR woman in a pencil skirt called on a man in a polo, then a woman with a stroller. The questions were friendly at first. Parking, noise, trash. I raised my hand. Maya, Conrad said, smiling like we're old friends. Of course. In your hearing notice, I said, voice steady, you say you'll be modifying the heritage tree protections and adjusting the drainage easement for adjacent parcels. Which adjacent parcels? Because as of yesterday afternoon, I exercised a recorded option to purchase the gray lot. We recorded a notice. We are under contract. You don't have that land. The room went quiet the way a room goes quiet when a wave stands up taller than usual. Conrad's smile didn't crack. That's his skill. We are in ongoing conversations with all neighbors, he said smoothly. We believe in collaboration. We have a very promising dialogue with the Gray family. Ruth honored my grandmother's paper, I said. The recorder's book has the page number. You can read it like everyone else. A murmur started. It wasn't hostile. It was awake. Pastor Amy raised her hand. What does modifying heritage tree protections mean in plain words? She asked. We love that oak. We have family pictures under that oak. We had a wedding there last summer. The PR woman fielded that one with practiced ease. It means we will work with certified arborists to ensure the long-term health of the tree while adjusting the building footprint to maximize community benefit. So you're cutting roots, Ethan said flatly. His boots squeaked on the floor. Root pruning is sometimes recommended.